Guys, I'm Tiny Joy now, and today I am so excited. I did a lot of freaking research. I am building the bowling alley from the movie The Big Lebowski that I'm going to use in my The Big Lebowski LP in The Sims 4. I'm really excited to play around in here with the dude and Walter and Donnie, and I think it's gonna be, I'm just really excited to play it out. Maybe change a few things, I don't know. We'll see. You'll have to watch and find out. But this was quite a process to figure out because you never see the full bowling alley in the movie. I had to watch lots of clips, lots of like half-second clips where, Donnie makes a strike and Walter's like, "Yeah, Donnie!" and it took the life out of me there. And had to see behind them for half a second that, okay, the food was over there, and I think that dark shadow means a hallway to the bathrooms. So it was a bit of a guessing process, but I'm pretty sure I got it decently, accurate. One thing you will notice in this particular bowling alley, which I know it is based on a movie, but I actually think it's a great representation for anyone who's interested in having this type of gameplay. I would definitely say this place is cheesy. It's kind of, oh, I'm sorry, pausing. I was probably deep in thought thinking, like, looking at screenshots, making sure I was doing everything accurately. This bowling alley is cheesy. It's kind of been around for a few decades. They haven't been able to update everything. I know bowling alleys are notoriously a little bit older and a little bit cheesy, even the newer ones, which is what the Sims team was inspired by in the packs, to have that kind of very, there's a word going around, I heard people say, like mid-century, mixed with that kind of kitschy, poppy feel. And for sure, every bowling alley has this, but this particular bowling alley that the guys go to, you can tell there's some bumps and scrapes. Now, I didn't add any decals from the vampire pack in this because I don't think you really see any stains in that way. It's more just the vibe of the place. Like these old, what's it called? Storage containers that I use as kind of a version of shelves kind of does enough to put out the vibe out there. And I was thinking about this, the dude and Walter and Donnie have probably been coming to this place for a while now. I was even wondering, like, how do you think they met? And, like, how long do you think they've been coming to this place? Like, how do they never, how do I explain this? Some people easily get depressed by the act of redundancy. And I think it's really interesting that these characters have clearly come to play, go to bowl, and they clearly do it all the time. And they've probably most likely been doing it for over a decade. That's my hunch. That's the vibe I get of the place. And yet they're fine. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a text message. And yet they're fine. They're unaffected. They seem really happy, but there's definitely a zealous. When they talk, it's always fresh. I have an image in my head of Walter regularly coming up to Donnie and being like, "My neighbor's dog keeps pooping on my lawn," or "Let me tell you about my conspiracy theory," or Donnie's like, showing off his new shirt that he got. So it's interesting that it never feels sad. And I think that's what charms people about this movie, is that it is the everyday. I mean, despite the, crazy occurrences that happen to the dude and them in this, otherwise, as people, they're everyday people. And they just, that's how it should be. You shouldn't feel sad about your life. You should enjoy the simple things in life. Bowling doesn't have to be something you should be, ashamed of being into, or be like, "Oh, I'm a diehard, I do it all the time." Even though, you know what I'm saying? But there's this weird vibe that people think that they need to be living this crazy, impressive life. When in reality, like, whatever you're doing on a day-to-day, it's good enough. You don't have to overthink it. I just got really deep there for a second. I tend to think about that a lot. On a side note, though, I do want to add those flower lights are supposed to be taking place of Christmas lights that are hanging above just the windows. I thought this was something kind of interesting. Most bowling alleys don't have any windows, the ones I've been to, or a lot of them. And so I really liked that this building did have a little L shaped window for the kind of very beginning entrance, but then the rest of it really was just darker and, I'm sorry, not darker, it was windowless, is what I'm trying to say, and depending on fluorescent lights and stuff. So oh gosh, sorry, I can hear a plane going over. Oh, well, what are you gonna do? I was trying to record this earlier and there was dogs barking, construction work happening, planes. After a while, I was just like, you know what? I gotta do this. I would like to record this. So, one thing I think is really awesome about that too is that because the windows are there, if you notice in the back of the movie, there's just some people hanging out and having a drink and eating some food. And it truly feels like what I think bowling alleys should be. You don't have to go to the bowling alley to bowl. It can be like a friendlier version of a bar, and it doesn't have to be only for kids. Like, as you can tell in this place and design, it's not that there's a maturity element to it, it's just there's a lack of kids in it. Yes, kids can come if they want, but, as parents, you better deal with the fact that they probably serve beer there. And I wish there was more places like this as an adult, even as a young adult. Sometimes, okay, I'm about to get a little bit too thought out right now, but what can I say? I think about this. I wish there was more places that weren't kid friendly. They don't have to be raunchy or too intense, but wouldn't it be nice to know if you went to a certain place, certain things like being able to drink or a certain type of way of displaying yourself didn't have to be censored because the possibility of you could be thrown out because, kids are present. Yeah, that's something that's becoming more and more a common thing. But in reality, I can't help but I want to go up to these businesses and be like, you are aware that like the grown-ups have the money, right? And I think most grown-ups are dying to get out of the house and do something different other than just going to the bar. And I think the bowling alley is a great place because it's a mixture of, yeah, you can get a drink or get something kind of, junk foody to watch, but because people are going there to bowl, there are more people just hanging out. And I think there is a difference between people who just go to the bars regularly and the type of people who want to drink and do something else at the same time. So I think the bowling alley is that really nice, happy mix between the two and is really awesome and should be kind of, enjoyed more. This is me trying to use this as a version of, how do I express this? The letterboard, the board where you keep the score. But eventually I'm going to realize with all of the letterboards I put up, it was kind of a lot. So I had to delete a couple. Sometimes things aren't necessarily even. It's more that it doesn't feel overcrowded. As you can tell, there's not a chair and the lighting of each lane because that would feel too crowded. In the movie, they did have a bunch of random like posters and art and stuff, not in any particular order, hung up in the back. So that's what I'm doing right there, and I'm deleting the letterboards right there. And I'm just replicating the beautiful design that I love that the Sims 4 team gave us. This really is a pinnacle of defining the bowling alleys. I have to say, I have to say this pack made me definitely miss bowling alleys. The last time I went to a bowling alley, I had a negative experience. They turned the music up, and I'm not making this up. They turned the music up so loud, like louder than any concert I've been to. It actually made me a bit deaf for a good hour, and every time I asked them to turn it down, and I'm talking just like to a normal level, they would say they would, and they would turn it up louder. And this is like the manager doing this, like the person that like runs the place. It was intensely, it was terribly, terribly rude and annoyed the bejesus out of me. And it was just one of those circumstances where, and I'm not trying to be, and I swear to you, I'm not being like high maintenance or anything when I say this. I truly mean like, it was to the point that I was with my boyfriend and my friend, and I was screaming directly into his ear, and we couldn't hear each other. Like, we had to motion to each other to even be like, do you want to leave? So that's not your typical bowling alley experience. But otherwise, bowling alleys are fun. I'm not always great at it. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm not. And this is a great place to kind of, it's one of those great activities where you don't have to be good at it and you can still have a good time. But I did do child bowling, weirdly enough, with my dad when I was younger, as a weird like father-daughter, father-child thing with like a bunch of other dads and kids. And we were bowling every week for like a couple months. And I'm not making this up. My highest score, I think, was something nuts, like 210 or something crazy. I'm very, very, very proud of that. I didn't even know that was a high score at a time until until I learned more about bowling as an older adult. But we're gonna be coming up to the end of this build really soon, and okay, this parking lot, normally I don't make parking lots, or parking lots are more just visual on most builds, but this parking lot is going to be pretty special if you remember particular parking lot scenes in the Big Lebowski that's going to be in the LP. Yeah, it's not just a park. It's not a just a parking lot is what I wanted to say. It's more of a how do I say this? Shit goes down. uh, I'm just putting in the cars. And have you ever noticed, by the way, side note, I don't know what it is about odd places like bowling alleys. There's always like two cars really close to the place, and then one car like crazy far from the venue. Have you ever noticed that? No, oh, last thing, I'm really, 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 really thankful for this sign. That sign literally matches pretty exact the bowling alley. Pretty exactly from the Big Lebowski. So thank you so much, Sims 14, for putting that in, because I think that really sells it. So here we are with the characters out front. Oh, it came out really great. I'm proud of it. Feel free to download it. Enjoy yourself. Please enjoy the LP. And I just want to say I'm Tiny Joy now, and I loved building this. Bye!